restaurant, where all good deals are done, by the way. And he was great. Tom, Dave, and I talked about how important it was to get parents involved in what we were doing in these education-related. They are the decision makers, so it's important to have them a little more interest in what's going on. And so he, at that time, said, you have got to meet some more legislators because there are other people who are looking for parents to get more involved in what we're doing. That's when he introduced me to Representative Wendy Horman. She was thinking, like I said, about what parents were, getting them more involved, but she just didn't have time to put it together. So we could see some real synergy there. As an aside, Wendy is probably, most of you know, along with Senator Lori Den Hartog, are currently sponsoring SB 1255. It's the Empowering Parents Grant Program. It's going through the legislative process, like I said, as most of you know. Just passed the Senate Education Committee last Monday, I believe it was, with a vote of 34-1. Yesterday, Wendy sent me a note this morning and said that the bill passed. She updated me and said that it passed the House Education Committee. And so now it's going on into the House itself, onto that floor. During our initial discussions with Wendy, she recommended our discussing our parent-led organization with what we ended up calling the Jordans. Jordan Benakis is from the Institute of Justice for Justice. It's a nonprofit public interest law firm located in Arlington, Virginia. Jordan Zachary is with Ed Choice. I don't know if you know about this program, but it was started back in 1996 by Nobel laureate Milton Friedman and his wife, Rose. And they have just done an excellent job over the last, since 1996, in getting school choice to be a paramount effort, not only in Indiana, they're in Indianapolis, but throughout the states. And these Jordans are dedicated to Idaho. So as we would get our Zoom calls almost every month, they would talk not only about the national issues, but also what was going on here in the state, which really helped us tremendously. On September 29th, Tom and I listened to Priscilla Giddings at a Stand Up for Idaho meeting. I don't know if you know anything about Stand Up for Idaho, but that's what it is. Doug and Cindy Toomer are two wonderful people, number one, but they're courageous and they're dedicated to their program, very hardworking. It's a nonpartisan group that does just that. It stands up for Idahoans' rights and justice and liberties. Priscilla was discussing a kindergarten bill. You probably have heard of SB 1193. It almost went through last year. It went through the Senate, but the House stopped it. I don't know if it's come up for a vote this year, but I know that they quoted 4 different books. I don't know if you've seen this little book. This is called A is for Activist. X is for Malcolm. That tells you everything you need to know about this book. Tom, did you want to pass it around so people can see it? You can make your own decisions on this book. But when you stop and think about a 0 to 5-year-old, this is what one looks like. And I need to quote this for you because this is from the Daily Wire. 0 to 5-year-olds are racist. Your 3-month-old, this looks like a pretty bad guy. Your 3-month-old may be racist, and the Department of Education is here to help you. So they do have our back. So we're going to be fine. Oh, it's very sad. Yeah, like I said, that little guy looks very dangerous. Of course, a letter to the editor was warranted. We thank Priscilla. I want to go back to her for just a moment. She has done so many wonderful things, not only in the support of our children, but also everything else that she's doing for our state. In October, Tom gave a brief presentation to the Ronald Reagan Republican Club of West Ada County. These people are great. We wanted to thank Erwin Beck and Kent Ebinger. Kent was a former neighbor of ours when we lived in Eagle. They have done just some wonderful things in helping us get known here in Boise, and in this Treasure Valley. At that time, we also met 2 great women, Anna Miller, who is the Education Policy Director, as most of you probably know, for Idaho Freedom Foundation, and Caitlin Shepard, who is the research director for IFF. They, at that time, this was in October, we decided we have got to work together because we're on the other side of the state. We're only 6 months, we're 3 months old, and we need some help. And they've been very, very good at helping us in strategizing on what we're doing next steps. One of our monthly calls with the Jordans and Wendy, we discussed how important it is to get the parents, the decision makers in their children's education choice, more involved. That's when we decided to start the petitions. We went door to door and talked to these parents, and they gave us what their impressions were. Now, we're in southeastern Idaho. It's a little more conservative. So the percentages we put together, 95% of those parents were very much for what we're doing, and I'll explain that a little bit more later, and that they're scared. They're frightened about what's happening, and they want to do something. That was also when the bus to Boise, when we started thinking about, not only are the parents decision makers, but the ultimate decision makers on what is going to be done is the executive branch and the legislative branch. So that's when we thought we have got to get some people on board a bus, show the solidarity that we all have, and see if we can't do what they did in Loudoun County, Virginia. At another Stand Up for Idaho, this is how important these meetings are. Meeting in November, Lieutenant Governor Janice McGeehan invited us to speak at a Capital Clarity Thursday meeting, which we took her up on it, of course. We thank her team, Jordan Waters and Michelle Hamilton, in arranging and coordinating this meeting today. We're going to have a real fun time on the Capitol steps at 1 o'clock. With our posters and what we have to say. We've got 3 great speakers who are going to talk a little bit more about what I'm discussing as well. Holly Stone and Don Shantz in Idaho Falls put together Stand Up for Kids, and we presented to them in late October. And they are doing some wonderful things in that southeastern area for our children. During another Stand Up for Idaho, this was a Liberty dinner, with Representative Dorothy Moon and Representative Carrie Hanks. This, a newly produced education savings account bill, which is patterned after West Virginia just passed it's the Hope Scholarship Fund bill in the 2021 legislative session in West Virginia. And it's an education savings account, parent choice bill that got through. They've been doing it, they've been trying it for years, so we know it could be a long haul, but we are ready to take on that challenge. Dorothy was ultimately committed to sponsoring, along with co-sponsor Gayon Desmordaunt. I have a teacher certificate in French, and that's a beautiful name, but it's hard to say. But what we really do consider this a dynamic student choice bill. It is going through, it's morphing right now, it's going through some changes. Shocking. So we don't really know what the ultimate dynamic parent choice ESA bill is going to look like. That's what Dorothy's going to talk about today. In early December, Anna Miller introduced us, Tom and me, to our existing, what we call, the Fearsome Fivesome group. They are some of the kindest, hardest working, nicest, smartest women I've ever met, and we thank the dear Lord every day for meeting them. These women are Amy Henry. She is the president for Parents for Freedom and Liberty here in Boise. She is luxuriating in Orlando, Florida today, where she gets a well-deserved vacation. Elaine King, Elaine, you're out there. She's from, you're right there. Southeastern Idaho, has been helping tremendously too. Laura Van Voorhees in Northern Idaho, and of course, Caitlin Shepard and Anna Miller from Idaho Freedom Foundation. What we're trying to do is not stay just in southeastern Idaho, but try to get the whole state involved. In mid-December, Senator Thane called Tom and discussed his engaged student bill. We do incorporate these bills in what we send out, the IPEC update newsletter every month, and this is the format for those legislative bills and programs. After our December 20th newsletter went out, Representative Barbara Ehart called to introduce us to her Transparency in Education bill, as well as amendments to the Idaho Code for getting parents to give written permission to belong to groups and organizations and clubs. We were shocked. Our daughter was on the Idaho Falls volleyball team and on the golf team, and they always had to have a permission slip for her to do this. This is amazing. If you're looking at supporting the safeguard of our children, they should sign to belong to these clubs. We wanted to also congratulate Barbara. I don't see her out here, but she received a recent award for Outstanding Republican Legislator for 2022. As Mark Fuller, yay, she deserves it. As Mark Fuller, chair of the Bonneville County Republican Central Committee, said, Barbara is a legislative lion. It's so true. If any of you know her, you know she gets out there and goes full bore. On January 18th, Brandon Durst sent us his Empower Parents in Education Act. I don't have an update on that right now. I think it's on somewhat of a back burner. But he does show support for parent choice legislation. I belong to a God Squad group. Every Wednesday we have a prayer for what we're doing and for all of these parents. So I do thank them as well. Most of our gratitude, though, goes to the parents, all of you parents who have gotten on this bus today, who we went through a few weeks ago, we missed the bus didn't come, so we had to start all over again, and you stuck with us. So we thank you so much. And like I said, we were able to talk directly with parents when we were going through the subdivisions and for our petitions, and they are frightened, they're concerned, and they want to get involved. So results matter. In 3 months since October, parents have shown their support by getting on that bus to Boise. In 3 months, 800,000, lest I digress a little, these petitions, there were 800 of them, close to 800 of them, that were sent to the executive branch and both legislative branches. This is what these people have to say. I am both a parent and a teacher. The purpose of education in the United States is to support our traditional constitutional freedoms by teaching children how to think, not what to think. I sign because parents can be best served by supporting authentic education by having meaningful choices therein. That is just replete through all of this. I just hope the executive branch and the legislative branches read all of these, because it's pretty much the same sentiment. So there are two requests that we ask in these petitions. One, a dynamic parent choice ESA bill be passed, where the money follows the kids. We're not talking about subtle changes over years of negotiation back and forth. Tom and I are business people. We've had 4 companies, and we truly believe in the United States free enterprise system. It works. Competition. So we're talking here about what we call in the marketplace a disruptive innovation that quickly creates a new market and actually gives stiff competition, like I said, to the existing structure. So as I was doing my going back through the history of the Department of Education, this is a 155-year-old government-dominated, union-driven education system that Andrew Johnson signed in 1867. It's had some mashing, it's had some changes, but that's where it started. It was mainly put together to just get data, stats on what's going on in the school districts in the country. Now this system has got to find out that the parents are the decision makers in their children's education, that a market-driven, competition-oriented strategy works well for all, even the dilapidated government-run educational system of today. They will learn that once we get done with them. So number 2, voting against any legislation that promotes unsuitable identity politics and social emotional learning, whatever that is. We feel teachers should teach. We feel teachers should teach academics and not waste our children's precious time and our precious money with these inappropriate self-actualization, child-intrusive philosophies. There's just no time for this. It's interesting that actually, Dorothy, I think you recommended my getting involved or finding more about Wall Builders. This is a Texas organization dedicated to the moral, religious, and constitutional foundation on which America was built. The other day I was listening to a podcast, and they were talking about how tough it is in the state of Texas, as conservative as it is, to get any parent choice bills done. And then they started talking about us, and they were talking about Idaho's conservative branding and how tough it is for us to get anything done. This is their quote. Roughly 82% of parents in the state of Idaho want school choice. But as conservative as they are having a hard time as well getting school choice legislation through their system. I wonder what that common denominator is. Now more than ever, Idaho parents are open to radically rethinking how their children are educated, driven by 4 important data points. Government-dominated education where monopolies, not free enterprise, are the order of the day. Identity politics, social justice movements that are infiltrating our educational system, as I said. Poor education ranking, I don't care what anybody says. When I do my letters to the editor, I get way down into the weeds. I found a stat that showed out of 33 metrics from the World Population Review, in 2022, Idaho ranked 38th. That was 2 down from 2021. So again, you can hear all the stats you want to, but this is a really, 33 metrics, you can't get much more intent than that. 4, Idaho's budget surplus is in an all-time high and ripe for giving back the federal money to our kids. Those are the 4. The education system's biggest crisis, this is what I really think is the issue, is that God is no longer revered in our country nor in our schools. It's so true. Wall Builders said it best. George Washington said it best. We believe that the propitious smiles of heaven can never be expected on a nation that disregards the eternal rules of order and right, which heaven itself has ordained. We have fallen too far off. We have got to get him at the apex again. We just do. So, I do thank the dear Lord for waking me up every morning and keeping the focus on our children, which is the most important and precious commodity we have. And I encourage all of you to listen carefully, because he is trying to talk to you too. Thank you very much for your time. I certainly enjoyed discussing this with you. Thank you.
What wonderful words. Thank you so much, Carolyn, for that. And I also want to make a special welcome to the many citizens that are here today. Thank you for being here. Thanks for putting an emphasis on this subject. There's a bus that came from Southeast Idaho, so I want to welcome all of those of you that came over on the bus. Thanks for being here. And it was a special surprise to me that my mom and dad were on that bus coming over today, so. We want to make sure that you hear from the presenters of the bill, and that's why we're focusing on that today, Capital Clarity, and our rally afterwards, is because we want the lawmakers we want to give the lawmakers as much support and encouragement that we can to get this important bill passed through. So I want to recognize any lawmaker that's here. Will you please stand and be recognized? Thanks for being here. We do appreciate your support. So with that, I will turn the information over to Representative, which one do you want to go first? Representative Gayan Demordant, or both of you, come on up.
Hi, and thank you so much, all of you, for showing up. I recognize a lot of faces from my southern and southeast Idaho trips that I've been making quite a bit lately. Anyway, I'm Representative Dorothy Moon, District 8, and this is Representative Gagan Demordant, District 14. And I've been working on this bill with my counterpart here because this school choice bill is very, very important to both of us and all of you. I'll tell you, I'm a lifelong educator, and as a special ed director, I was thrust into the school choice ideals a long time ago when I noticed that in a 4-day school week that some of my kiddos were a little bit overwhelmed with a government class and an upper math class, and they just couldn't quite these classes, and it would through the summer, so it would alleviate some of those heavy loads, so maybe they could participate in sports and work on some of those social skills that they needed to work on if they were in a special ed classroom. So I'm telling you, I think all of us have been school choice for a long time, charter schools, private schools, online schools, even paper with that BYU program. But I'm telling you, we need to offer these choices so that our kids feel successful and they're ready to take on the challenges of the world when they leave there in their senior year. Nothing could be more important. We have had we've been kind of going back and forth, and as Carolyn said, it's been, like making a nice bill over time here, and we've been working on it with the help of Anna Miller with Idaho Freedom Foundation, education policy analyst, who's been wonderful in helping us with, at least on the budgetary parts of this, which has kind of been throwing us back and forth a little bit. But go ahead. Did you want to say something?
Well, no, I want to, before we dig into the nuts and bolts of this, first of all, so excited to have Eastern Idaho here. My heart goes there. The Demordant family has been there for years, for decades, and it's great to see some of your faces. One of my children were born there. I lived there for a short time, and it's just great. It's great to have Senator Lint from Eastern Idaho, along with the other legislators, our colleagues that are here. One of the things that kept going through my mind as we were preparing for this was really, why choice and why now? As Dorothy said, we have been working on different aspects of choice for years. We were freshman legislators together. We had a very thin wall that separated our offices, and we'd poke over each other's into each other's cubicles that first year. But we have both been engaged in choice for a very long time. Why ESA and why now? I'll tell you, if anything good came out of a pandemic, it is that you as parents are completely engaged. You know, it used to be that we would look at, we used to call it the alphabet soup of opposition to choice, all right? And those things looked like, sounded like, well, number one, the IEA, the union, the SBA, the ISBA, the SDE, okay, any of those, right, were the opposition and the reason that we needed choice. Now we have things like SEL and CRT. Now it's not some entity, it is in our classrooms now. And so it could not be more important that we are engaged in choice, real choice at the parent level. Not at, like Dorothy said, started the largest charter school in the state, still the largest charter school in the state. That was great, committed to that. But I have never been more committed to parents being in the driver's seat of their child's education. So, we are bringing this together. It is not we are bringing this together to the state of Idaho to get all the way to the governor's desk, parents in the driver's seat of their child's education. So that is why now, because it's never been more critical now. It has never been more critically important than right now with these letters that are in our curriculum and in our classrooms. So anyway, we appreciate you being here, and we're going to field questions, but we'll go do a brief overview of the bill. And if you want to start, and I'll go into the financial.
Okay, so the Hope and Opportunity Scholarship Program would create accounts for Idaho families so that their kids K through 12 would be able to access dollars so parents could access educational services or environments that are best for their educational needs. 80% of the most current available statewide average general maintenance and operations fund expenditures will give us about $5,950 per kid. That's great. Yeah, that's a good amount. It's a good start. As far as eligibility goes, this has gone back and forth quite a bit, but additionally, the student must be attending or currently enrolled in a public school for at least 45 days, and upon that time before applying, and then they could switch to one of these ESA programs. They could also be a sibling of a student who is already participating in this program, have disabilities, or be eligible to enroll in kindergarten or first grade when applying. So there are some eligibility requirements. Of course, we would have just liked to have had universal eligibility, but we've got to negotiate to get at least an ESA bill before the governor, for sure. Okay, you want to go ahead and speak?
Well, some of the eligible expenses I think will resonate with you. It can be tuition at private schools, tuition and fees, tutoring, without the requirement of having a certified teacher as the tutor, so that's nice. Individual classes, extracurricular services, any contracted. Of course, we expect that there will be students with disabilities, so any of those services that are needed for those students. Educational software, computer, that was a big allocation, and we knew that we needed that. Fees for standardized tests or prep test or college courses, summer and after school expenses. You can see this is covering wide gamut of expenses, right? Speech and language therapy, transportation costs, and then other qualifying costs that will be approved. So it really does allow the use, just wide use of these funds. So I see $6,000 going a long way in your hands with your kids. So with that, unless, Anna, do you have anything to add to that in terms of the nuts and bolts? Okay, we'll take some questions then. We'd love to take some questions. Yes, please.
Tell everyone the status of the bill now.
Good question. So I'll tell you, for our Eastern Idaho friends, we really wanted to have this introduced, and up until 6 p.m. last night, we were going to have this in committee this morning at 9 a.m. and be able to, well, hopefully share that news with you that it was printed. The introductory hearing is now scheduled for tomorrow morning. So we are just so pleased to be to this point. I'll tell you, we haven't been with an ESA. We have not been to this point before. So it's huge to have it introduced tomorrow. And then, of course, we expect that we'll have a bill hearing within the next week. So some really good momentum.
Yes, ma'am.
No bill yet.
Not yet.
Yep. Yeah. We'll have introductory hearing tomorrow. It's got an RS, a routing slip is what it's referred to. We should have a bill number for you by Monday. Should have it by Monday. Oh, gosh. You know what? Did we just get that, Anna? You will not be able to track it. Tomorrow morning it will, the RS is a private, it's a private copy of the bill, and then it goes to the committee, and then it'll be public, and that's just the process here. So that has not been released with the new information.
So the eligibility requirements, you said they have to go to school for 45 days or be the sibling of the programs to be multiple children. Only one kid has to go.
Pretty much, that's the trigger.
Yes. Yes, right there.
Do you have statistics how well the students do on other states that only got this going?
You know, I'll tell you what is interesting. There might be some specifics, but I will tell you what happens in choice in general. What we found is you open a charter school and the surrounding public traditional schools, you see them do better. We see better performance. crazy, right? The charter school that I started out here is on one side of the street. The magnet school that the district built a year later with a waiting list equally as long opened across the street, and they both do equally as well. So anyway, great question, and there might be specific numbers
Yeah,
there.
I'll just add to that a little bit of academic background really quick. So there's been 28 studies on the effects of school choice on existing public schools. 25 of those 28 studies show that there are positive effects on the academic outcomes of existing public school students in states where there are school choice programs running, very positive effects. The other part of that is that students that participate in school choice programs are far more likely to get accepted into college. Their test scores are far higher, and overall they just have higher rates of success and higher earnings in life. And so there's a lot of evidence for school choice and its competitive benefits.
You will have a bill number by Monday, and then we want you to contact everyone. We want you to contact everyone. Yep.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, well, I'll tell you, I am introducing a bill to define homeschooling, and you will see that that homeschoolers are exempted from this. But if I think those are only the two, this bill and then that homeschool definition would be the two bills that will be homeschooled.
Okay, there's a parent review commission included in this, so parental involvement to where they can, by majority vote, questions any expenditures. So if all of a sudden they've got a huge TV all of a sudden in their house, maybe we should be questioning that. There are limitations on electronics, though, so that's going to keep that from happening. And it's going to be 7 members, consist of 7 members who are parents of scholarship students. So anyway, and represent no less than 4 counties, so they're not all going to be from Ada County. I think that's important. So maybe you've got some people right here who would maybe be on that commission. Anyway, so the members are appointed by the superintendent of public instruction to serve for 1 calendar year. So there will be a lot of input on what qualifies, what doesn't, and should they exit the program, then the money has to be returned to the program for another kid.
And I think what is key there is that you have parents that are participating in the program that are through the State Board of Education. So State Board of Education, parent group, they will look first at those and be so versed in this to be recognizing any expenses that don't qualify. So that is a great question, that transparency piece. Oh, go ahead, Dorothy.
This lady's hand's up here. Sorry.
We'll come right over here next, yes.
Yes.
How is that parent group that's going to make all these decisions?
That'd be through the State Board of Education. Mm-hmm. Yes, right over here.
I'm interested in knowing if there's any allocation in here for.
Yep.
If she
Well,
covers everybody.
absolutely. You'll see in that list of expenses that, you know, those services, ESL services would be there and available. Within that $6,000, obviously the disability services I covered. So, and of the qualifying, I believe it's 250% of free and reduced lunch. So you do have, obviously, that cap there. So I think, yes,
A lot of them would
a
qualify.
lot of access.
The gentleman in the purple shirt, yes.
Interesting, yeah. We might let Anna field that.
Yeah. Yeah, the scholarship accounts are not taxable income at all. They're not taxable income. There's written into the bill that you cannot tax these funds. It's just like the same, I mean, they're public funds, so, yeah.
So what's the vehicle for issuing it, so they have access to the funds?
Yeah, so the State Department of Education will set up a digital platform to host these accounts, and they will facilitate direct payments from the account to the education service provider.
Do you mind if I just take 1 minute, because we had another legislator that popped in that I think you will like knowing is here. I like to say that we are involved in this session in terms of saying yes to ESA, no to ESG, and the legislator that is leading out on that is Representative Barbie Hart in the back row. So we've already acknowledged your kind award, but we're glad you're here.
And another legislator's popped in, Representative Priscilla Giddings, who Carolyn was talking about, is right back there too.
Thank you. Okay, we can take a few more questions. Front row, yes.
So I imagine the $6,000 funds this program on an ongoing basis. Is there any attempt to access our huge surplus for first-year startup, maybe to enhance the program out of the gate, kick it off? I mean, all that money's sitting there. Why don't we spend it on our kids?
Exactly, and that's why we believe that a yes vote it will be had by a lot of our colleagues, because there is that access. It's hard to make the argument that we don't have the money, but further explanation.
Yeah, and to answer your questions, it's really up to the legislature to decide how they appropriate. Within the bill, the funds are made up of private or governmental grants, and then any legislature appropriations from the general fund. So they could use a surplus if they chose to.
Yes, sir.
Is there a precise definition of what kind or size of educational private entity? Private school is 7 students, or might it have to be a separate legal entity, like a corporation?
The awesome part about an education savings account is that it allows you to completely personalize your child's education, right? So if you wanted to form a pod with other families, yeah, you would be eligible to use these funds and form a pod, a pandemic pod. I don't know if you guys have heard that term, but basically a group of parents that come together and pick a teacher and pick curriculum for themselves, and they could pull together all of their resources and do that with a program like this.
Yeah. Ultimate flexibility.
Right.
Yep.
Let me get
Yes, right here.
First time.
If the church wanted to take kids during the day to leave their parents,
Yes.
avenue for that also.
Yes. Yes.
It's parent directed. So if that parent says we're meeting in the church gym and we're hiring, certain people to educate, absolutely allowable expense.
And Daryl, one thing I've noticed going around the state and talking, there's a lot more churches rising up to fill that void. And I think it's huge, especially in southern and southeast Idaho, to where they haven't done it before, but they know how imperative it is. If we're going to save these kids, they have to get involved. It's great. Yeah.
Yep. Right here, please.
So you said this is per student. What's the frequency? Is it a one-time? Is it every academic year?
Every academic year.
What is the
Great question. If you didn't hear that, the question was, what is it, a reoccurring expense or allowance, and how much? That $6,000 is on an annual basis, a yearly basis. So yes, you will be able to continue. Now, there's a couple things that I think are interesting about this bill. Expenses can roll over. So if you don't spend the full $6,000, it stays in that account and it continues to roll up all the way until the student either graduates or turns 19. So again, it really has the flexibility, but again, the oversight that we should all be comfortable with. Even traditional education folks should be comfortable with the transparency, the annual audit, the parent committee, and the SB, but ultimate flexibility. Yeah.
I'm hearing about juniors and seniors in high school starting out their trade school while they're already in high school. Could you see a situation where this could really pay for someone's trade school?
Absolutely. Yep, absolutely. And
Yeah,
go ahead.
trade school isn't listed in the bill, but the State Department of Education can approve other expenses, and they could potentially approve trade school. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Look like you want to start, but we'll.
Yeah, so I'll start and then I'll let them fill in. So it doesn't create a new education system. It decentralizes the existing education system to return power to parents to make choices for their children. Okay, so that's the first most important thing to know. There is an income cap on the bill for eligibility. So students whose families earn 250% of the free and reduced price lunch program or less are eligible to participate in the program. So it's not a universal program, unfortunately. Everyone is not eligible to participate. But we do know, based on uptake in other states for private school choice programs, that about 1 to 3% of students typically participate, especially in the beginning years of the program. So yeah, it's really unlikely that, it's actually not possible with this bill that everyone would participate, but about 65% students theoretically are eligible. If you're wondering if it will destroy public schools, that's a really common school choice myth. And the question there is, why would school choice destroy public schools? Are you afraid children are going to take their dollars elsewhere because they can be better served elsewhere? That's a decision, again, of parents, not of government.
Let me add a little context around those numbers that Anna gave you. So in our state, that estimated percent, that 1% that we've seen in other states, that's about 2,000 students, perhaps. That's what we're estimating. A little more context around that. What's that 250% of free and reduced lunch? What is that income level? That's a little over $120,000. What is that? I mean, does that sound high? Maybe, but that's basically the average salary of a police officer married to a nurse. It's so if that gives you a little bit of a context around that, that is that income cap. But do we see some of these requirements? Do we hope that some of these eligibility requirements open up even broader? You bet we do. You bet we do.
Right.
Yeah, go ahead.
Right in the back.
Yeah, it does. It's public school, and that was something that was requested by others to be put into the bill, and so we accommodated that. And so anyway, that could be changed in the future, but right now, that 45 days is set. And I'll let you field
You negotiated the numbers.
Exactly.
I know the original intent was for the bill to be universal, to have no requirement for you to be in an existing public school system. Unfortunately, you have to make bargains when you're trying to get a bill like this through the legislature, and this also reduces the fiscal note for the bill as well, so it helps with just getting wider support among moderates and things for a bill like this.
Absolutely. Yep. I want to be really careful about that homeschool and homeschool definition. The definition that is being asked for by homeschoolers is to distinguish them from virtual or not parent-directed education. So it really doesn't preclude all homeschoolers by any means. It's just the way that they are homeschooling, and that homeschooler is when it's a parent-directed specifically and not receiving public funds. So thank you for that question. Now I see a hand way back there, and I'm going to try and get people that are asking for the first time. So right back there in the black jacket. Oh yeah.
We need. I would appreciate if you would come to the hearing when we have it. After we get our bill number, come to the hearing and share that. We can always amend these bills after input. We wanted universal.
Yep.
We
We sure did, and we hope that changes as well. Yes, right here on the second row.
All of your work on this, as more parents have gotten involved
in their children's schooling and more are attending school board meetings, many have been quite shocked as to what was going on. I'm curious, with the school choice, what do you envision, if anything, as far as the school boards throughout Idaho becoming more accountable to the parents and to the children for what goes on in the classroom?
Free markets can do wonders for education. That's it, short and simple.
I think there's no question that we see, again, schools, districts, school boards being more responsive when there is choice.
Okay, is that it? Okay, well, thank you for your questions, and
Oh, I'm going to go one more
more
because
question,
Sue, please, yep.
Before you leave, can you give your email who we should be following on a newsletter and updates so we can stay up to date?
Thank you, Sue. Thanks. Okay, yes, Michelle.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Thank you guys for all the wonderful questions. Everyone is very well informed in this group. I thank Representative Moon and Representative DeMorda for their work on this very, very much. All right, now we are not done with the fun yet. The Lieutenant Governor has left. She will meet us on the steps. We are going to have a My Child, My Choice rally out on the front steps. The IPEC group, the Idaho Parents for Educational Choice, have brought all these wonderful signs. We may or may not have a visit from the Freedom Convoy. And so it is going to be a great time. So when you leave here, just go right out. You can go out here to the steps and go up to the front, or you can go down to the rotunda and go up the stairs and go out the front door. Either way, just make sure that you show up for the Freedom Rally. I'm sure there's going to be people there trying to prove that no one cares about education choice, and we're going to show them otherwise. All right. Now, just remember, every Thursday at noon here in the Lincoln Auditorium for Capital Clarity, a different subject every week. All right. Thank you, everyone.
So we'll get going.
Cable Broadband Association, Association of Idaho Cities, Boise State School of Public Service, the James A. and Louise McClure Center for Public Policy Research, and Friends of the Idaho Public Television Endowment. Cable Broadband Association, Association of Idaho Cities, Boise State School of Public Service, the James A. and Louise McClure Center for Public Policy Research, and Friends of the Idaho Public Television Endowment. session is sponsored by Idaho Cable Broadband Association, Association of Idaho Cities, Boise State School of Public Service, the James A. and Louise McClure Center for Public Policy Research, and Friends of the Idaho Public Television Endowment. Cable Broadband Association, Association of Idaho Cities, Boise State School of Public Service, the James A. and Louise McClure Center for Public Policy Research, and Friends of the Idaho Public Television Endowment. Sponsored by Idaho Cable Broadband Association, Association of Idaho Cities, Boise State School of Public Service, the the James A. and Louise McClure Center for Public Policy Research, and Friends of the Idaho Public Television Endowment. Session is sponsored by Idaho Cable Broadband Association, Association of Idaho Cities, Boise State School of Public Service, the James A. and Louise McClure Center for Public Policy Research, and Friends of the Idaho Public Television Endowment. Session is sponsored by Idaho Cable Broadband Association, Association of Idaho Cities, Boise State School of Public Service, the James A. and Louise McClure Center for Public Policy Research, and Friends of the Idaho Public Television Endowment. Cable Broadband Association, Association of Idaho Cities, Boise State School of Public Service, the James A. and Louise McClure Center for Public Policy Research, and Friends of the Idaho Public Television Endowment. Cable Broadband Association, Association of Idaho Cities, Boise State School of Public Service, the James A. and Louise McClure Center for Public Policy Research, and Friends of the Idaho Public Television Endowment. Sponsored by Idaho Cable Broadband Association, Association of Idaho Cities, Boise State School of Public Service, the James A. and Louise McClure Center for Public Policy Research, and Friends of the Idaho Public Television Endowment. Cable Broadband Association, Association of Idaho Cities, Boise State School of Public Service, the James A. and Louise McClure Center for Public Policy Research, and Friends of the Idaho Public Television Endowment. Idaho Cable Broadband Association, Association of Idaho Cities, Boise State School of Public Service, the James A. and Louise McClure Center for Public Policy Research, and Friends of the Idaho Public Television Endowment.